You are watching Access LaPorte County Channel 97. Coming up next is the March 14th meeting of the Michigan City Board of Cemetery Trustees. You can find more information for this meeting at www.accesslaportecounty.org.
The Cemetery Board of Trustees meeting dated Thursday, March 14th, 2024. First item of business is roll call.
Davis Bush.
Here.
Bernadette Denke. Here. Stephen Janis.
Here.
Renee Bauer.
Here.
Vera Gaston.
Here.
Pastor Dennis Carroll.
Here.
And Kat Houchins. Here. I got it right.
Excellent. We have a quorum.
Yes.
We'll move to the approval of previous minutes.
I move that we approve the minutes.
Second.
Okay. We'll take a vote on that. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Move down to the financial report from Horizon.
Thank you. We'll start on page 1 at the top of the summary page with regard to the permanent maintenance greenwood account. The account was up 0.26 for the month and 0.26 year to date. The next account is the permanent maintenance Swan Lake account, and that account was up 0.27% for the month and 2.36% year to date. With respect to the extension fund account, the account was up 0.28% for the month and up 5.02% year to date. The merchandising commission's fund account, the account was up 0.40% for the month and up 5.33% year to date.
Is that 5.33 or 53?
5.33.
It says 53. Yeah.
That was my, I think that's
Okay.
5.3. On page 2, with respect to the account details in the permanent maintenance greenwood account, the money market is currently yielding 5.22%, which is up from last month's yield of 5.21%. Mutual funds overall yield is at 3.35%, which is up from last month's yield of 3.20%. And the overall yield in the account is at 3.92%, which is up from last month's yield of 3.81%, I'm sorry. In the permanent maintenance Swan Lake account, the mutual funds overall yield is 3.42%, which is up from last month's yield of 3.26%. The overall yield in the account is at 4.24%, which is up from last month's yield of 4.14%. The next account on the list is the extension fund. Mutual funds overall yield is at 3.60%, which is up from last month's yield of 3.31%, and the overall yield in the account is at 4.29%, which is up from last month's yield of 4.12%. And finally, and the last account on the list is the merchandise fund account. The mutual funds overall yield is at 3.64%, which is up from last month's yield of 3.30%, and the overall yield in the account is at 4.89%, which is up from last month's yield of 4.80%. And now I'll turn it over to Brad for his comments with respect to the overall market.
Thank you. So last time we met, we talked a little bit about those current CD rates, current treasury rates out in the market. And since we last met, a couple of the gauges of inflation, namely the consumer price index and the producer price index, have come a little bit hotter than was expected by the market. So it seems like inflation is continue to hang around. It's a little bit stickier than we had anticipated. So interest rates have actually moved up a little bit since we last met. So that's good news for people that have cash to invest. We still expect the Fed to cut interest rates at some point this year. Probably 2 or 3 times in total, 0.25% cuts each time. But that timeline now is looking more like a June timeframe. If the Fed continues to see inflation come down closer to their target, which is 2%, then they'll be more comfortable cutting that interest rate. But I think they still need to see a little bit more evidence that it's truly going to settle down close to where they want. It is heading in the right direction, but we're still waiting to hear the Fed say, yeah, we're definitively going to cut at X date. So with that being said, we are, in our portfolios, we are recommending when feasible, a little bit longer term maturity. So we're going out anywhere from 3 to 7 years in some of our portfolios. That's kind of where we feel the best value is for the long term, locking in those rates to take some of that uncertainty out, some of the investment uncertainty. So that's kind of where we're at. I think last time we talked, 1-year CD and Treasury was about 4.9 and 4.8 respectively. It's over 5% as of today, 5.1. And then when you go out to 2 and 3 years, and even out to 5 years, you're seeing 25 to 30 basis point boosts from last time we met across the board. So really attractive interest rates, no matter how far you want to invest. So I did check the cash balances in the account, and they are pretty close to what we looked at last time. A few $1,000s actually because of interest that was accumulated, things like that. But our money market's still yielding 5.2%, so it's still there's been really no disadvantage of anything in that cash, at least in the last couple of months. If we do see the Fed start to cut rates, that will affect that money market pretty directly. But as of yet, we don't know when that first rate cut is going to come. We are expecting probably June. So with that being said, are there any other questions or comments about the current investments or the cash balance that you guys have in the accounts?
Do you have any CDs coming in the near future?
CDs coming due anytime soon. We have one CD in the Greenwood account that's going to mature in November of this year, the Wells Fargo CD. We also have one in the Swan Lake account in December of this year, and as well one in the extension fund in December. So at the end of this year, we have 3 CDs that are becoming due at that.
So nothing in the near future?
Yeah, nothing in the next couple of months or anything.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments? All right, motion to approve the items in presentation.
So moved.
Second. Vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
May I ask, Roxanne, could you email me and let me know when all of those signatures are applied
Yes.
to that form?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Excellent.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, we all have a copy of the bills in front of us. We're given out today. Has everybody reviewed it? Any comments or questions?
Is there anything unusual on here?
No,
I mean, it's normal.
not that we can see. And we'll accept this by voice vote as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, carried. Moving right on to the superintendent's report.
Actually, if I could defer for a minute, we have a guest today, and I'd like to get him up and speaking so he doesn't fall.
Yeah, make it sit there.
Mr. McCoy is here from, he's the gentleman that did the OSHA safety review last year, presented us with a contract last year. At last year's members decided there wasn't enough money in the account in our budget to go forward with his presentation, his contract. So with the urging of the mayor and our city council, we're asking that the board reconsider contracting with Mr. McCoy to not only solve our current OSHA safety problems, but also provide safety training in the future. So that's correct.
And where would the money come from?
Oh, so the money, we have an open personnel position within the cemetery. It's a full-time mechanic. That position hasn't been filled for years. It's, I think, $44,000. So the mayor and the controller's office suggested that we look into transferring some of the money out of that open position. You'll see when Mr. McCoy presents the cost of this. It's not going to take up our whole personnel budget for that position, but that's about the only place we have any leverage or any leeway within our budget.
Okay. Mind if I move up there, and that way people don't have to twist around too much. So I spoke with the board in October, I believe it was, on the previous contract. And we came with an amount to simply work on what had to be done here in the cemetery department. And since that time, with our new administration, new mayor, a great emphasis on safety has been placed. And as a result, we have been able to allocate some funding for safety improvements throughout the city in each of the departments. It mainly centers around program improvement and safety, also on safety training. So with the contract that I presented back in October, we had elements of safety training, elements of procedures, and that were rather general. And so what I was able to do was to compare the contract that was approved through the city, compare it to the contract I presented in October, and was able to reduce costs on our particular contract. And so that meant a reduction of $5,000 in costs that would go to me as a consultant, McCoy and Associates as a consultant. That's offset a little bit because of the increase in cost of AEDs, and those units have gone up in cost since that contract. And so the total reduction came out to be about $4,211 in savings. So I think that's pretty significant. And so Jeff has already been very proactive in making some improvements. Mr. Bush has been extremely helpful in his advice throughout the whole process. So I think we're off on a very, very good footing, to make improvements in safety that should bode well for us. So with that, the contract talks about $71.85 for McCoy and Associates, some third-party training. That cost is being covered under the city contract. There are some equipment costs, primarily the AED unit, potentially an eye wash station, and then some supplies. That's another category of $1,100. And adding those different columns in the contract, we come out with a total of $13,555, which again is $4,211 less than what I presented in October. So happy to answer any questions you may have.
How many eyewash stations? One. Where will that be?
Most likely over at the other cemetery where we have maintenance operations that take place. That's my observation so far.
Okay, thank you. And first aid kits?
First aid kits will be, we'll have one located here, then one located at the other cemetery. And those are Class B first aid kits. they're somewhat robust for the potential hazards that we have, with our work environment.
When do you anticipate the work would start once the contract is approved?
Today.
Okay.
We've already done some preliminary work, no charge. So, ready to start out on that. For example, we're going around the city right now and offering first aid, AED, CPR training. I'm working with the refuse department right now, and so when we're done with the refuse department, we'll move on to city maintenance, and then we'll move on to other departments. And at that time, I'd like to invite personnel from the cemetery department to participate. So that's some of the activities that we're just getting into very quickly.
Sounds good.
Any other questions?
So will it just be, oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Will it just be the personnel department, or can board members participate in it also, or is it just for
The first aid training?
Mhm. For the first aid and CPR?
Oh, well, it's every city department.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll work our way to City Hall, work our way to other departments as we go through.
So I know a large part of this is the training, and that's not just going to end on December 31st of this year. It's going to be every year from this point on.
Correct.
How much of your services are we going to require next year? So I know a lot of this is equipment this year, and you're actually going out and surveying the properties.
Mm-hmm.
What would you anticipate the continuing cost of this program to be?
The one cost area, and it's not very large, is whenever we have new employees, they could be temporary employees, summer hires, they have to go through some initial safety training. So I see that. That cost would be relatively small. It's a matter of sitting down with an individual for about 3 hours. And it's not only just sitting down, but we do the walk around and talk about potential hazards and things. And basically it gets the individual with the proper mindset. What are the expectations that we have here in safety? And to get them off on the right foot. And then we have online training that I see that as an ongoing cost. Typically those sessions cost about $70, $80 a session. So I see the cost as being somewhat lower than what it is now.
So would you be willing to sit down with us in, I don't know, August, or whenever we decide when we have to start anticipating creating next year's budget? So that we can actually build your cost into a line item in our budget?
Yes. So I encourage every department to do that. And I believe the budget process begins probably in June. Start looking at, what is it we want to, have in our budget for the coming year. So June, July, August, I think is when, it gets more finalized. So I think if we start earlier, the better. That way we can get into looking what's the best way we can optimize everything, try and look for a way in which we can minimize costs to offer the services.
Anyone else? Okay. I'll need a motion for approval of contract with Daniel McCoy and Associates LLC as presented. And we need a vote. All in favor? Got one eye out of it.
We don't need a motion, we just want to vote.
Yeah.
We need a motion and then second.
Okay, we'll just do a motion.
I so move.
Okay, second. Excellent. Now we'll vote. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries.
And if anyone around the table cares to take the CPR first aid training, I'm sure we can.
Well, that's the question that I was asking.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because some of us may be retired and we're not in the workforce anymore, so we may not be included in the city training, so that's why I was asking if we could also participate in those trainings.
I think so.
Okay,
I think we can find the $40 in our budget.
okay, all right, thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Alrighty, next item is to discuss the cemetery rules and regulations for the new members.
So when I started out here, I was a little confused too, because there was no single source area for me to go to find all the rules and regulations that have been adopted over the years by the cemetery board and previous superintendents. So with the help of Roxanne and Denise over at Greenwood, we looked through all of our records and found, I hope, what is every rule or regulation that was passed by previous boards or previous superintendents. So we put that in the form of a, do you have yours already? Of a booklet for everybody.
Oh, nice.
Thank you for doing that.
There's also a few other things that I included in there, like the city's purchasing policy, which it just explains certain amounts that require bidding for whatever we're gonna purchase for our.
Oh, nice.
So there's a lot in there. I'm not expecting anybody to go over it today, but I just wanted to present it to everybody just in case anybody wants to take home and read it and has questions at the next meeting, or if you have questions before then, I'm free to answer any questions that I can. So,
Do these get recorded at City Hall? Any of those?
no, I don't believe so, no. Now in here too is also our city ordinance, the city ordinance that pertains to all the operations of the cemetery department. And then I also included in here the job descriptions of every employee in the cemetery too.
Sounds good.
Any further questions or comments on
Well, I don't know if it's in here or not, but I know Roxanne and I had talked about the different positions. Are those listed in here?
Yes, the job descriptions for everyone is towards the back.
Okay, all right.
Are you talking there about the committees?
Mm-hmm,
Oh, I didn't put that in there.
okay.
Yeah, we looked into that and we couldn't find anything in writing that describes the, I guess, requirements, or there actually describes whether there are specific committees required or what the duties of those committees are. So, but again, I believe by Robert's Rules of Order, anytime something comes up, we can create a committee. At that time, rules for that committee would be established. So.
Okay. Yeah, and I think that's what Roxanne was explaining to me about that.
anyone else? No. Okay, we'll go on to the official superintendent's report.
So I'll give our report of the burials first. For March, burials at Greenwood, we had 2 ash burials, 6 full burials, for a total of 8. Swan Lake, we had 1 ash burial, 9 full burials, and 1 entombment, for a total of 9, which gave us 19 burials for the month of March for the cemetery department. In other business, back in January, there was an automobile accident on Highway 20 in front of Swan Lake. One of the cars ended up careening off the roadway and took out our fence in front of the pond. The city's attorney's office has been working with the insurance companies. The last correspondence that I received indicated that there's probably not going to be enough coverage from the person who was involved, who caused this accident, to pay for the damage to our fence. I did receive 2 quotes for the repairs to the fence. The lowest one included repairing the landscaping also. I believe it came in around $1,400. I apologize, I don't have that with me right now. I do have it with me. So, this is not the full. Okay. So again, that lowest estimate was going to quote $250 for taking down and disposing of approximately 40 foot of the chain link fence that was damaged. It also included $850 for replacing the damaged fence with new 40-foot long, 4-foot tall green chain link fencing for $850, and it included repairing the landscape for $450. I think we can probably, with the employees we have out here, I'm confident that we can repair the landscape ourselves and save the $450. So we would be asking for the board to consider appropriating $1,100 for the rest of the work that will be required as far as taking the old fence down and replacing it with new fence. And again, that's something we're hoping to get done soon. Once the swans start nesting, we don't want them wandering out onto the highway. So again, that would be for $1,100.
We'll move right on with motion to.
Also move.
Okay.
Question.
Yes.
Do we have insurance that will cover that $1,100 or?
The city is, again, this is kind of a gray area because the cemetery board does, they do have their own insurance, which we're still looking into. That's why we're purchasing our own insurance policies out here when the rest of the city is covered under kind of umbrella. So we have not made a claim with our insurance company. This claim was given directly to the city's insurance. But again, the city's insurance deductible is so high that I know this is well below what the city deductible is. So.
Right, we have a motion to.
And the driver doesn't have any money.
Yeah, right.
They do have insurance, but most of the insurance money, the coverage they had, went to paying for the damage to both vehicles that was involved in the accident. When that was done, there wasn't anything left to pay for.
Yeah, I understand that.
All right, we have a motion, we need a second.
I second it.
Okay, now we can vote on the appropriation of $1,100 to fix our fence. We need a vote, and all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? This motion carries, we will pay that bill.
The next item would be, I just wanted to update the board on some of the cost-saving measures we're trying to implement. And as I discussed during our last meeting, we looked into switching our gas service out here from AmeriGas to Co-Alliance. And that's almost complete. We replaced the tank out at the maintenance building and here at the office. The third tank out at the mausoleum, we can't get to it this time. It's too wet to get a truck back there to switch out the tanks. So as soon as it dries up, we'll complete that and it'll result in about a 50% savings in our gas bill. I'm looking currently into our trash service. Currently, we only have our trash picked up once a month, which isn't practical, especially during spring cleanup. So we're kind of in negotiations right now with Waste Management and Republic Trash Services to negotiate a lower price because when I called, the original price was kind of out of line. They wanted over $300 to have a larger trash bin picked up twice a month. So I'm pretty confident we're going to be able to save some money after we negotiated with those two companies.
So it's a bin and not?
Yes, it's a dumpster. It is a dumpster.
What size is it?
Currently, we have a 4-yard. We were trying to get an 8-yard dumpster.
So this item on the payment register to Republic of $157.28 was for pickup once a month?
Yes, that's only once a month. We're paying $156. Next item would be, I just wanted to update the board or inform the board that yesterday our department participated in the citywide internship job fair that was held at City Hall. At that time, in preparation of that, and I'd like to thank Denise and Roxanne for attending that and coming up with a presentation, a table and everything. But I also created a brochure that just describes what we do out here at the cemetery and also describe the requirements of the intern that we were looking for. We were trying to find, and I don't know if we're going to be successful in it or not, we're still waiting for the applications to all come in, but we were looking for an intern to assist with construction management, and that position would have entailed assisting us in coming up with prioritizing all of the repairs that need to be done at both cemeteries, assisting with the solicitation of bids and the final implementation of the construction project. And the second intern we were looking for was an information and technology intern, and that person would have been responsible for assisting us implementing our new software program that we're still exploring. We haven't decided on a contractor or a vendor for that yet, so I'll pass that around just in case anyone wants to look at
What
that.
were they hoping to solicit the internships? The candidates?
They started out hopefully maybe enticing, they were college interns.
Are these paid positions?
Yes, they are paid. I believe they started out about $18 and went up to $20-some if you were a graduate student.
Did you get any response yesterday
3 people.
for the whole thing? Yeah, it
3 people.
seemed like it wasn't advertised ahead of time, maybe? I mean, I know
Yeah, I think it was on Facebook, it was,
Was it?
and then the mayor had live stream on her phone while she was there, so.
I wonder if during spring break would have been,
Well,
I mean,
spring.
closer to when the college students are home.
Right, it was spring break.
Oh, it was?
Yes.
For college students?
For some, yeah, for some of
Yeah.
the students are still.
Well, tried.
What about mortuary school? Are there any schools around here that, in Chicago, that maybe we could target someone from?
I don't think the mayor or Kyla, who is in charge of the program, has given up on trying to find more candidates for this. I think we're going to try to maybe explore different colleges, or I think one of the things that was discussed is possibly allowing trade schools to participate in this too. The next item I just wanted to briefly update the board on our cemetery software system. Currently, I obtained one solid quote from a company, SemSites, I'm sorry, is the vendor that I quoted. We went SemSites. Yes. And probably at the next meeting, if we make more progress on this, I can actually put up the projector again and show you an example or a couple examples of the services they offer with other municipalities.
How do you spell that?
I believe it was CEMSITES. But they have some really advanced technology as far as integrating GPS into their mapping so that the public can actually go on their phone and it'll give them walking directions or driving directions to whatever greater site they need. It would be a benefit also to us as far as helping Roxanne and Denise out, and, assisting the public in finding the grave site that they want. Next item I had was, we were cleaning out the cemeteries, which we're still in the process of doing. I found several stacks of grave markers. When I looked at them, I found that they were veterans' grave markers. So I found out what happens is when a veteran dies, the U.S. government actually pays for a grave marker, and they would be the flat bronze ones that mount on granite. But a lot of times what happens is that the family will get those. They get shipped to us because we have to sign an authorization form just confirming all the information so they get the pre-plaque. But what has happened over the years is either the family, when the pre-plaque comes, the family doesn't have the money to purchase the granite to mount them on, or there are no family members. So what we found is there's probably over 50 of these markers sitting in our maintenance buildings. I've reached out to a couple of veterans organizations. Specifically, I reached out to Steve Moore over at the Wall Gang, and I reached out to one of our, I think, American Legion organizations too. And I plan on trying to reach out to a few more because it would be nice to maybe encourage our local veterans organizations to maybe have some type of fundraising event, because what we would need is the granite. We have to mount these on granite, and granite has to be uniform with all the rest of the granite within the cemetery. So we're looking at about, $345 per piece of granite. So it'd be a little expensive, not outrageous, but we're hoping to get some cooperation for that, because it's a shame to leave these veterans markers out there, because what happens, and I don't know if a lot of you are aware, specifically out here at Swan Lake, if a family member or family can't afford a headstone or a grave marker, there's just no marker at all. So when you walk across the grounds of the cemetery here, you're walking over a lot of unmarked graves. So that seems a disservice to our veterans that they don't at least have a grave marker, since the U.S. government did provide them one. So
they're actually buried.
yes. Yeah, we're in the process of searching all the burial records, because there's a possibility that some of these actually do have headstones that the family members paid for already, but they just never bother getting the granite to mount these at the foot of the.
And these are both cemeteries?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so you'd also have to pay for a foundation, right?
I think we don't do we put foundations in there?
Oh, the granite, we have a granite foundation you have to install on.
Just the granite though.
Just the
Yeah,
granite.
they
You
don't
don't need
require.
the foundation under it?
No, we don't do
So
cement.
the total cost would be $345. So
Per
per
grant.
grant, per grant. So.
I think that sounds like that would be a good idea, that perhaps some of these organizations, I mean, they can get a lot of public input, and it would be good marketing for the cemetery too.
Right, because we just don't want to leave these things sit out there for decades, because some of them are decades old and out there. So.
If there's any way that I could assist with that, I'm a veteran, so I would love to be able to participate in that in any way.
And that might be an opportunity for a committee, a board committee to be formed to actually maybe reach out to more of these organizations and work with them to do that. So.
I would love to be able to do that, yeah.
Do you happen to know how many are out there?
We're still going through all of them, but there's approximately 50 so far.
The 50 veterans or 50?
50 markers out there.
Oh, 50 markers.
Yes,
Oh,
yes. So at least 50 veterans' graves we're looking at, so.
Could the families at the time have just taken the markers?
No, we have the markers.
I know, I just wondered if, in the future, if,
Yes, in fact,
does it
I don't know
belong
if
to the
it's-
cemetery or to the?
no, it belongs to the family.
So if they wanted to take it to their home for whatever reason,
And-
yeah,
They have,
Yep.
they
could, okay.
Right.
And I think maybe even that information to the families, because when I had mine installed on my husband's, I think that a lot of families were not informed that it comes here, and some may have anticipated it coming to the house, or, they may not have known that they needed to come here to pick it up or have it delivered to the, where the headstones are, to have it installed, because they're not getting that information. And had I not known, myself, I would not have been able to have mine installed.
I know Denise over at Greenwood informed me that she has on several occasions went through the list of names over at Greenwood and tried to contact the family members. In most cases, there's no phone number, no living family member, or they just don't get a response.
So those don't just show up at Greenwood and Swan Lake, they have to be ordered.
Yeah, they do.
They come in and they talk to Roxanne.
Right, and after I mail it in, and when we get the marker back here, I call every one of them. And just like Jess said, sometimes there's just no response at all. And I let them know they have an option, with the granite or granite with the base. And we don't hear from them.
Or maybe, are they out of town?
No, some are here in Michigan City.
So that's one of the things we're going to explore before we give the veteran, or at least some of these service organizations, the final list of names that we need assistance with in purchasing the granite. But we are going to go through the whole list again and try to make contact with the family members of each veteran out there. So, and we're also going to go research our records to make sure. What we want to do is, if we do go forward with this program, is to start with the veterans who have no markers at all. Because like I say, there may be instances where there are veterans buried out here, but they just never got the plaque, which is placed in at the foot of the grave if there's a headstone already there. So we want to start with the veterans who have no marking at all. So the next item I had was the discussion of bonding of employees of the cemetery. When you read through the rules and regulations books that I give you, there's a section in the city ordinance that requires all board members, the superintendent, administrative assistants, the assistant, and any person in the cemetery that handles money to be bonded. I've spoken with an employee of General Insurance who's familiar with this process, and he's working on getting me a quote. But again, I've asked around, I've looked around. Roxanne is also unaware of when, if ever, that we've been bonded. So we've also talked to other city departments, and there's other city departments that have employees that collect money too that aren't bonded. So, and I'm not sure how the city wants to proceed on that, but as long as it's part of our city ordinance, until it's removed, I think we need to follow the city ordinance.
It says that the mayor was involved in it, the ordinance does, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I think it says the mayor has to approve all bonding. Yep. But apparently, as far as cemetery goes, that hasn't been done for quite a while, if ever. So we want to get that corrected. So at the next board meeting, at the latest, I hope to have a quote so that we can get that process done. So. The last thing I have is, and I just want to warn you, this isn't as long as the presentation as last time, so I'm going to get everybody out here quick. So I just wanted to update the board on some of the improvements or repairs that we've made out here the last couple months. The first picture you see here, it's a picture of our irrigation system here at Swan Lake. There's the irrigation system that runs throughout the entire property, or pretty much the entire property here. And it was used years ago, and apparently at one time there were sprinkler heads that you can hook into the system and you could actually water the lawn out here. Well, I guess that hasn't worked for many, many years. But the pump that runs this system also feeds our pond out in front. And if that doesn't work in the summertime, that pond can start to dry up if we don't feed it with water. I tried the system out earlier this winter when I was trying to make better arrangements for our swans. Our swans require 24/7 access to open water. So what I was trying to do is feed the pond with water to keep the water flowing for the swans to have open areas of water. When we did that, or before I did it, I was informed by an employee out here that the system failed out here a couple years ago and was never repaired. So what happened was a pipe broke out here in the cemetery, and it flooded a large section of the cemetery a couple years ago. So we started up this year, and again, obviously it was never fixed, so we determined where that leak was. We dug down, and we spent a couple days making the repairs out there. So hopefully that's the only leak out there, but we do have the pipe fixed now, so when we need to, we can run that pump and feed the pond with water to keep open access for our swans. And I think that was less than $200 to repair this. We did the work ourselves. This is another example. There was another line that we found that was damaged out here when we were doing a burial a couple months ago. We're still trying to figure out how this irrigation system works because there's a pump house in the very rear of the property out here, and we tried turning that on and water sprayed everywhere because there's broken lines out there. So apparently that pump out there hasn't worked or hasn't been in service for years. But we're just trying to figure out how all this irrigation works out here. Because like I say, there's no outlet for the water other than the pond, because all of the points where the sprinklers went in must have been covered up at one time. So that's one of these long-term projects, maybe a year or 2 years from now, that we can get the money to get that system up and running so we can start sprinkling the grounds again, because basically the only cost to us would be the electric for the pump, because we run off of springs out here.
Have you ever seen the sprinklers running?
No. Are they needed? Does it get?
It would be nice to have a few, because when we do burials out here, we have no way of watering the grass seed when we replant. At the new mausoleum, Serenity, there's 3 wooden benches out there. I don't know if they've ever been repainted or repaired, but that was one of the first things we've done out here. There's 3 of those out here. We rebuild them with all new wood. So.
Nice.
Thank you.
And that's just an example of the new and the old ones. This is one of our employees here. We're diligently trying to get all the equipment fixed and serviced. So far we have about half of our mower fleet done and about 3/4 of our vehicles. And I want to thank Daryl Gabachik down at the Central Maintenance Department. They've been servicing all of our vehicles, so it's not only assist us in not having to devote the manpower to that, but it's also free. All of the funds for the filters and the oil are absorbed by the Central Maintenance Department.
Nice.
When I first started here, one of the first things I wanted to do was save this backhoe, because when I started out here, the picture on the right is where it sat for years. It was covered in vines, flat tires, it hadn't run forever. We got it up and running and cleaned up, and it's a nice piece of equipment. It does have a hydraulic leak right now. I was using it the other day and it sprung a leak, but it's a minor repair, so it's going to be a nice addition to what we have.
What brand is that?
It's a Case.
Okay, oh,
Yes.
nice.
And this is our newest backhoe, and again, we serviced it, cleaned it up, and it's all ready to go.
That's pretty.
Again, when I started out here, our Kubota UTV had sat in the garage out there for about a year, and the condition on the right with the broken axle. Took a couple weeks to get the parts and everything ordered, but it's been up and running for a couple weeks. It's a nice piece of machinery.
Very nice.
And then this is our newest addition. This was purchased with the COVID funds under the previous administration, but we just took delivery of it, I think about a week ago.
Where is this one being used?
This one here's at Swan Lake. Both cemeteries received new ones, so they have a new one in agreement too.
Okay.
What are they used for?
We use these more than anything else. These are used to pull the lowering device that we use to lower the caskets into the ground. They're used pretty much to run all over the property to fix things. This is one thing I wanted to bring up last week during one of the strong winds out at Greenwood, and this is the Dabbert crypt. The tree fortunately didn't hit the crypt, but only a large section broke off, but there's still a large stalk remaining, and we can't down that tree ourselves without risking having it fall on that building or one of the graves. So I'm gonna get an estimate from a tree service to have that taken down, but again, you can probably expect that bill at the next meeting, but that's something that has to be done. So. And again, this is just a picture of our fence that was damaged. At the last meeting, I presented the board with a list of items that we're hoping to get very soon so we can take care of the needed repairs out here. So Roxanne and myself met with the city controller earlier this week to figure out how we're going to pay for this. As Horizon Bank explained, we have an extension fund. We've investigated that with the city attorney, the mayor, and the controller's office, and they have determined that that extension fund is pretty much like a checking account. We can use that for repairs out here at the cemetery without having to necessarily ask the permission of council or anything like that. So this is the preliminary list that I came up with. And again, at the very top is our lowering device, and that's what we need the most. However, at today's meeting, I'm asking for permission to go ahead and purchase all of this equipment. This is the immediate needs. There's other equipment that we need in the future, but this is what we need right now. And I'll just go over the list briefly. The lowering device, we need new vacuum cleaners so that we can diligently clean all the mausoleums. We need a carpet cleaner, and that carpet cleaner would be shared between the two cemeteries just so we could clean the carpeting. A lawn roller, that's very needed, especially out here at Swan Lake with all the molehills. I've gotten an estimate for that. The track mat wagon, as I explained during last month's meeting, it's almost like a farm wagon. It's a chassis that we could actually build a deck on, and all of the track mat that we use to drive across the lawn so we don't rut it up, we can place on there so that our employees don't have to constantly load that into a truck and then take it back out of the truck when they want to use the truck. So, and you wouldn't have to lift it as high too, so it's going to save wear and tear on our employees. A pressure washer is needed out here because with all the mud out here, a garden hose doesn't wash. Believe me, I spent hours washing some of our mowers off in our backhoe, and that mud sticks to the equipment like cement. So it's not going to clean off with a water hose. We need a pressure washer. An earth auger, when we do our ash burials, it would save the wear and tear on our employees rather than having to dig with a post hole digger. They can just, it's a 2-man auger, and it'll cut the time in a quarter. So. We desperately need a floor jack to service our equipment because the floor jack we have doesn't work completely. You actually have to stick your hand in the gears and turn them manually, and it's unsafe. We need shop tools out here. I didn't want to burden the board with saying we want $20 for a hammer or $50 for a set of wrenches. I'd like to ask for $2,000 so that we can spend $1,000 at each cemetery for the tools that we need, and that also includes shovels. We don't have adequate shovels out here either, and the guys out here have been begging me to get decent shovels. So, Dave over at Greenwood informed me that every year we purchase new push mowers because we just buy cheap ones because they get tore up and they get used so much, and they're just push mowers that we use to cut in between the graves, not out here, but at Greenwood, because the way the graves are set up, too close to get in between with the zero turns. So I checked online. We can get some cheap ones at Menards. We can get 2 of them for less than $500. And again, the total for this is approximately $26,000. This money we're asking to be taken out of the extension fund. When we met with Mary Lynn down at the controller's office, we have about $76,000 right now that's liquid in that account. Actually, from the report that Horizon Bank gave today, I think there's a lot more liquid than that, but this is a drop in the bucket because right now there's, what, 730,000? Was it? 770,000 in that account. And that account, again, as it was explained during our research, is for this type of thing, for capital improvements, for major expenses within the cemetery, because as the mayor explained a couple times during several of our interviews, the city's not going to be in a position this year to approve any capital expenditures for pretty much any department. So any funding has to be self-sustained like we're doing here, or it's going to have to come out of the remaining COVID money. And speaking of that, the software program that we're looking at, which the quote I got is around $63,000 for that. We're not going to ask the board for that money. We're probably going to ask the city council for an appropriation of the COVID or the ARPA funds for that. So I think that's, so then.
You want me to make a motion now?
Okay.
I'll so move that we authorize the expenditure of up to $26,089.66 or more.
Yeah.
Okay, well, any questions or comments with that also?
I
Okay,
just
then
have one question. Because it's out of our money, you don't have to put it out for bid or anything like that?
So in this rules packet that I gave everybody, there's a page in there that explains the city purchasing policy.
Okay, I'll read it.
I don't think for the most expensive thing, like the lowering device, we're gonna have to just go find 2 companies and get prices for them. It's not gonna require a formal bid process. I don't think the formal bid process kicks in until, I think, $50,000.
Oh, okay.
But as I'll explain in one of the next slides here, services, when we wanna contract services out to somebody, that's a much lower threshold. Anything over, I think, 5,000 requires bids for that.
Okay, so we'll run a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? This motion carried.
And again, I have no prices on anything yet. Earlier this week, the owner of Marcus Electric at Skiwat came out himself and looked at all of the things that we need to have repaired. Marcus Electric isn't just electric anymore. They've kind of become a new version of the Ton and Blank. They're an all-around contractor. They do plumbing, electrical, painting, remodeling, HVAC. If they don't do it, they can source it out. So I'm waiting for quotes from Marcus. I'm also attempting to solicit more quotes. Eventually, when we bid this out, we're going to have to get formal quotes because I'm sure this is going to be much, much higher than $5,000. We're looking at electrical out here. There's plumbing issues with the pump out there. The quote's also going to include remodeling both offices here at Greenwood and Swan Lake, repainting them, putting new countertops on.
All in one quote?
He's going to break it down, so if we want to do it in segments, we can.
And that's how you'll ask for
Yes.
another quote the same?
So do you get 3 different quotes, or do you just pick one company and go with their quote?
We're going to end up having to bid this out. I'm just trying to get an idea of how much we're looking for, just to confirm that we are going to have to bid this out.
Okay.
Again, they'll also give us quotes for replacing the flooring, hopefully at all of the cemeteries, so we go to hardwood flooring or some kind of hard surface flooring. The mausoleum lights, and then, like I say, there's sewer repairs too that need to be done that I still need to find a contractor for to get some quotes. So that's all in the works. It's just Marcus was good about it. They came out pretty fast, and they're going to work quickly to get us that. But it's been hard. It's been like pulling teeth trying to get people to come out to give us quotes, and then when they do, we're just waiting for them to come up with the quotes. So, but one of the main things at the top of the list here is Serenity Mausoleum, the newer mausoleum. We have to get a new HVAC system in there because it doesn't work. So, and we want to go to a gas system because right now it's just air handlers, electric. And we only turn the heat on in there when there's a service to save on our bills. Electric systems don't heat up fast enough. We need something that's gas so that it forces the air out and heats it up quickly. And then I added this on here because we have no line item in our budget for this material. We need fill sand to backfill the graves. We don't want to use clay anymore because it traps water in there and it's too hard to work with. We want to get topsoil, good topsoil that'll grow grass quickly so we don't have barren grave sites out there. And then also the landscape rock, as I mentioned in our last month's presentation, around the mausoleums, the old mausoleum, we need to redo all of the river rock or landscape rock around the building because it sits too low and the water just sits and is trapped next to the building. So we need to remove all of the base units, fill it up and raise the level of the rock in there, and then reinstall the base units so that the water doesn't sit next to the building. So,
Are you getting quotes just from D&M?
I'm going to look around too, but I just wanted, this was the first one I got, so I just wanted, and this isn't a quote, they gave me a price sheet of what they charge everybody, so this is public information here. So one thing with D&M, I talked to the owner, Ryan Miller, and he did agree that if we do contract him to haul this materials in, he's willing to allow us to load him up with some of our junk clay out there so that when he delivers a load, we'll give him a load of our junk and he'll haul it back at no charge. So. But this is something we need to do before the next meeting. And again, I don't know if it necessarily needs approval, but we're going to have to take this money out of the extension fund
It's
because
everyday expense, basically.
Question, what kind of quantity for the fill sand?
those are triaxle loads. So sand and topsoil they're sold by the cubic yard.
So the truck's
cubic
about
yard.
3 to 5 yards?
Yeah. One of them is sold by the cubic yard and one of them is sold by the cubic foot, but they're triaxle loads. So
Okay.
about 18 to 20 ton, I think.
Okay. It's a 20-ton truck, it should be 5 yards capacity for that truck. That's what the capacity usually is.
Oh, no, the yards for a triaxle are about 18 to 20. So our small dump trucks that we have haul about 3 to 5 yards. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Excellent.
And then this was just for the new members that I threw in here. I just want to explain how our income is broken down. When we sell a gravesite, a niche, if we sell merchandise like our grave markers or the granite, the city ordinance, and I don't know if this is governed by state law, but our city ordinance specifies what percentage of that sale goes into each account. So when Horizon Bank comes here and says this is how much we have in the permanent maintenance or an extension fund or the merchandise fund, when we sell any of these items, a certain percentage goes into each one of those funds. So this is just for informational purposes, but like for example, the grave, if we sell a grave site, 15% of that income goes into the permanent maintenance fund for whichever cemetery it's sold in. The extension fund, 25% goes into that. And then for a grave sale, 60% of that goes into operating. And what operating is, it's basically, we're sending that back to the controller's office, and that was anticipated income when the budget was made. So that's not like we have 60% to blow on anything. That 60% is there to fund the budget that was approved last year for us. So.
Thank you, that was helpful.
And one last thing.
And I'm not a new member.
So I only have one last thing, and one of our board members brought it up to me too, but we've received several complaints about Greenwood Cemetery. The Jewish section is maintained by an outside company, and I think it's the Sinai Temple that actually controls that section of the cemetery. We received several complaints last year. Apparently when they were doing the fall cleanup, they blew the leaves into a pile, and they didn't bother to pick the pile up, so it's still sitting there. So we're getting people thinking that's our, I guess, responsibility. I called the Sinai Temple this morning, and I'm still waiting for a return call from the person who's in charge of that, but we want to get them to clean those leaves up because it's unsightly and it's reflecting bad on the rest of the cemetery. And I believe that's all I have.
Yes. I'll just make one president's comment about the board is actually a financial arm for the cemeteries, and that's overseeing expenses and investments, nothing else. I also want to make a note that we have to ask our superintendent about the continuing sale of bronze markers at Swan Lake.
So when we were going through the budget, again, this year's budget was based on projections from last year in anticipation of what they thought we would make this year. What's never been taken into account is that when we do a sale of a bronze marker or the granite, the prices for these that we charge the public haven't been raised since 2013. So even though we haven't raised our prices, our suppliers have continued to raise their prices of what they're charging us. So it's gotten to the point where we're subsidizing burials for the public because we're not charging anywhere near what we need to just break even on these. And the other issue is that it's always a source of confrontation, kind of, because Roxanne has to sit down and make appointments with everybody that wants to order one of these markers. So it's a lengthy process trying to get the family to come in and design. There's so many different designs that can be put on these markers now. And then we're about, 16 to 18 months out to, if we order granite.
Yeah, at least a year to get the granite to install them on.
So it just, it was probably done in the past because there were commissions being made, but commissions aren't being made by anyone here anymore. So we're asking the board to consider eliminating the sales out here. We would still do sales of the niche plaques, the lettering, the foundations, because all that needs to be installed by our employees. We don't want anybody from any contractor coming in here and damaging anything. So we would still do that. But at this point, it makes sense just to let the monument companies deal with that, because basically these markers and granite are just the same as headstones. We don't sell headstones, so why are we still in the business of selling granite
And is there still one here in town, or the one over by Greenwood?
Colvin's, is that right?
Colvin's is in LaPorte and the Michigan City Monuments, which it's the same. And they're on Johnson Road.
Okay, so that's where.
So we would like to schedule a workshop, because this was a major decision, because when you look at it, you're thinking, and in fact, we had printed it up here, but I
You
don't
don't need another job.
Right, but we would like to take this slow, at least wait till the next meeting to make a final decision, but in the meantime, maybe schedule a workshop with Roxanne so she can explain how much in the hole we are when we're making these sales.
So I just need 3 board members. Okay.
I have a question. This may be crazy, but has Fawn Lake or Greenwood ever thought about like having a section for pets?
No. I mean, it's
It might
not
be
like we,
huge.
right, we would have an area for that.
Yeah,
I don't know what's involved with that, but we can find out.
okay.
You know, like the rules and regulations, and
There may be a state thing involved with
That's what I
that, I
heard.
would think.
I know Lakeview has that in the port. They have a section.
Yeah.
That could be a moneymaker.
That's what I'm thinking, that really, because a lot of people would spend money on having their pets go
Yeah.
either next to them or in a, a section that's just.
I always thought of an infant, like, baby, like a baby land out here too,
Mm-hmm.
like they have at Greenwood. Because, like I say, if it's just a stillborn or something like that, people don't want to buy a full grave.
Right, yeah.
I can think about that.
That's good. We can get that board members that go to, or be on the, extra
The
thing.
workshop.
Yeah,
So I have 2,
But
one more.
you gotta give it a special name, but that'll go ahead before the next meeting. And we'll
Yes,
talk about it at the
I-
next meeting.
Let me take you.
Okay.
So we have 3 meetings. Okay, I'll give you a call, find out when you're available.
I'm
Next
retired.
week. Oh, you're not retired anymore?
No, I am.
Oh, okay.
I am retired fully, so I'm
Oh,
pretty
you're
available.
Oh, okay.
That's what I was trying to say.
If anyone can't make that particular date, for one reason or another, sick, whatever, I'll fill in.
Okay. You'll be our alternative.
Okay. Do we have any open business? I have nothing on my list.
Can I ask a question? Was there any more investigating the fence update, to see what kind of repairs or redoing of the black fence?
No, I apologize, not yet. I mean,
Okay.
because even if we do, even if we are successful in getting like a local contractor to sandblast and paint that for us, it's gonna be a while before our employees have time. We're kind of got like a priority list of what we're trying to get finished, but that's definitely on our list. It's just, that's gonna be a huge undertaking. It's gonna require a lot of effort on our part, if we have to take the fence down or haul it somewhere to get
Yeah.
it. So,
I was just wondering if there was a solution on how you were gonna rectify it, not
Yeah.
necessarily when it was gonna start, but,
yeah. I am gonna look into it. I'll have an answer before the next board meeting.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Need a motion to adjourn.
I just wondered about the new business item that was on here. Is that being postponed or something?
Yes. Yeah, so we were contacted by Megan.
Oh, I'm
Yesterday.
sorry. She called, it was canceled.
Okay, so we don't need to deal with it
She's
today.
coming to the next meeting.
Okay, thank you.
This is it. But moving along, the work that they're doing, cause.
Oh, yes, just an update. So if you look back to our, I guess, west here, north, the tree company has made significant progress. You can actually see now back to the industrial complex back there, but they are moving along. They've made their way up to our dirt pile now, and they're starting to clear the brush off of that. They are gonna, we've talked to them, they are gonna give us as much wood chips as we want, so there are several projects that we can use that wood chips for, so they're gonna give us the free wood chips, and so it's proceeding. So.
Okay, good.
Anyone else? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I'll second.
We're done.